Today, Susanna Holzenbrook, who works at an organization here in Connecticut in Branford called Read to Grow. I was really lucky to have been introduced to Susanna through a very long email chain that started with the state representative. It was a whole big thing. And was able to take a tour of Read to Grow and learn a little bit more about what they do. We brought them up here with us. We've got some really interesting partnerships and plans that we have going forward between our two organizations. But today, Susanna is going to talk to us about readers from birth, because they work with kids from, hi, you were born today, until they're going into school at about 5 years old, and how to support prenatal and newborns and their families. Thank you, Susanna. I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Kim. It's such an honor to be here and to speak to a virtual room full of people who love books and already get that literacy is important. It's rare that I get to speak to folks who already are on the same page, literally and figuratively. So thank you very much for all of the work you do, truly, all of you. Thank you, Kim, for inviting me, and all of you for hosting me. I just want to start out by also saying that, we're a nonprofit that works in partnership with libraries. We're not a competitor to libraries. We really, want to make sure that our services are complementary and sort of help direct and help families find the library as a tremendous resource. So just acknowledging that from the start. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. All right, so I'm actually I know that we have many participants from all over the Northeast, and that's really exciting. Our work at Read to Grow is really focused in Connecticut, and so I just want to anchor us in the need around very early literacy, and the need specifically in Connecticut. And obviously, you all come from different places, and so the reality on the ground may look a bit different where you are, or it may look very similar. My guess is that in some ways there's a lot of similarities. So hopefully this speaks to you as well. I think when people think about Connecticut who live outside of Connecticut, sometimes they think that we're all Greenwich, which couldn't be farther from the truth. And I know those of you who are from Connecticut know that very, very well. But Connecticut consistently ranks in the bottom 5 states with the biggest academic achievement gaps in the country. And according to the Connecticut Department of Education, only 35% of children entering kindergarten in Connecticut are on grade level for literacy when they start school. And then the national average, which I know you know this number, 2/3 of children, unfortunately, do not have books of their own at home. And according to the State of Babies report, which is published by 0 to 3, it's a national organization, and they publish these reports for each state. So subsequent to this presentation, I'll make sure that Kim has the links to those reports in case it's a resource you're not aware of yet. According to that report, families self-reporting on this, only 48% of Connecticut families report reading daily to their young children. Just going to go into a couple of other details here. We've just highlighted the need for early literacy, and I think some of these things you may already know, but I am going to just summarize some of the hopeful answers to the challenges I just listed. So as we know, in the first years of life, our brain is busy building its wiring system. And by age 2, our brains can have about 100 trillion neural connections. There's a tremendous amount of brain growth that happens in those early years. So an investment in early literacy is an incredible investment long-term. This is exciting. In 2022, there was a study that was published out of Michigan showing that infants as young as 6 months who are read to daily show improved receptive and expressive language skills. Really interesting data point, and there's more data coming out of that, those researchers' work. And you also know this, which is that children who have books in the home are more likely to be on grade level by grade 3. So Read to Grow's mission, we promote language and literacy skills for children beginning at birth, and we support families as their babies' first teachers. We envision a world where every family participates and understands the critical importance of early childhood literacy. And we envision a Connecticut where all children have books of their own in their homes. And just sort of the landscape within Connecticut, we work with multiple hospitals. I'll get into that model. Over 200 partners. We've given out a lot of books. We've worked with a lot of people. We've been around for about 24 years. Next year, we'll celebrate 25 in 2025. But what does early literacy mean for the prenatal to age 1 population, right? They're not school age. We don't have teachers in the classroom teaching kids how to decode. What does that mean when we start talking about literacy with babies? And so two of the most important roles that reading to very, very little ones, the role of reading to very, very little ones plays is the role of bonding, right? The role of comfort and routine in a child's life. So sitting down and reading that book, it lowers the heart rate of the caregiver, lowers the heart rate of the child. And if you're doing it regularly, there's a routine, there's an expectation, there's the cueing that happens like at bedtime, when you read every night, right? There's the association of comfort with that activity, which in turn means that you're more apt to pick up a book and associate books with positive interactions. The other thing that's happening, remember that brain development that's happening really, really early, is when we're exposing babies to sounds, words, and patterns, their neural pathways are lighting up, and all of that brain growth is positively impacted when they have consistent, rich exposure to lots of different languages and vocabularies and sounds. The phonological awareness and the phonemic awareness that starts to become really important when they get to school. All of that foundational work the groundwork is laid and can be laid when they are very little. What does early literacy mean for families and caregivers? So we know what it means for children. What does it mean for the adults who are responsible for making sure that children have exposure to all of those benefits? So for Read to Grow, we have found that, primarily it's about awareness raising. It's about letting families know this is important, reminding them that they can start reading the moment that baby you have given birth, and you're not going to read right away, but when you're settling in and bonding with your baby in the hospital room, when you get home, starting to incorporate books as part of your routine. You can read to newborns. We encourage families to read to newborns. So it's that awareness raising, giving them the information about why it's important. What does establishing routines, what does exposing your child to lots of different languages and vocabulary, what does that do for them long term? We assume that all families want what's best for their child, and so we're trying to give them the information so they can make the best decision for them. And then, so in addition to the information, of course, it's about providing the resources and the books. And so we do make sure that families, get books, know where to get free books, know where to find their local library, and know where to find the resources to access the books that they need in the home. But then the third question is, what does inclusive literacy mean for the prenatal to age 1 population and their caregivers? And this is just a brief list. There's a lot more to this, but as we know, it's important to provide books in multiple languages. When you're working with families, especially in the prenatal stage, which I'll go into our model in a minute. But we have a lot of families that are immigrants and refugees. And so when you're giving them books that are in the languages that they speak, they're more apt to start that routine. Also acknowledging that not all caregivers are literate themselves or have confidence in their own literacy. And so providing wordless books or books with few words so that the act of sharing the book and telling stories without text on the page becomes accessible to everybody. Likewise, what's actually on the page, showing books that feature children of various backgrounds. The baby that in this picture is a child who's received one of our books that we send out in that first year after baby's born. And it's a book of faces. You might probably familiar with it. You're a librarian, so you know these books. But it's very small, simple board book. And what we hear from families is, oh my gosh, can you send us another copy of this book? Because my baby, we just prop it up and they love staring at the faces, other babies' faces, especially during the pandemic. This book became a way for babies to have that social exposure to other babies' faces, really critical to that brain development, that socialization. I also want to highlight that we recognize that parents aren't always the primary caregiver. And so when we talk about inclusive literacy practices, talking about the grandparents, talking about the aunties and uncles, talking about maybe it's a foster parent, working with DCF here in Connecticut to make sure that we're providing the same resources to families who have different setups. Maybe it's a single parent, maybe there's multiple different housing arrangements and kids are bouncing back and forth between homes, right? There's all of that reality, which I know you see at the library as well. But recognizing that so that our model is such that we can meet all families where they are. So I did promise I'd go into our model a bit. So our prenatal, if you think of our model as a continuum, so Kim mentioned, we get books into the hands of brand new babies. About 8 or 9 years ago, we launched our prenatal work. So we actually start even before baby is born. We work with community health clinics around the state, and we reach about 3,000 to 4,000 expecting families currently in the state of Connecticut. And the model is a 2-session model for the prenatal project. So we actually provide the materials to the clinics that are working with families. We train the healthcare providers, and then they deliver the information. So they give the books at the wellness visits. They give the information about brain development, the encouragement to actually read to the belly, even before baby's there. If there's other folks in the home, encouraging them to read to the belly as a way to bond, again, building that routine. And then at the 28-week wellness visit, we start to focus more on the shift to baby's almost here, the black and white board book to emphasize the ocular development that starts to happen once baby's arrived. More information, repeating our messaging around reading early and often, and also, of course, sharing resources, reminding them that there's the library, reminding them about the other services in the state that can support them in this journey. So then baby arrives in the hospital. We currently work with 15 hospitals in Connecticut. We just added a 15th, the Hospital of Central Connecticut in New Britain. And every single baby born in those hospitals receives our packet. And I'm excited to have one of the pictures on this screen up in front of you because this is an example of a partnership with a library. So Gretchen Hockmeister, some of you may know her. She's in the olive suit, standing next to the OB/GYN and the new mom and her family. So we partner with the Hotchkiss Library in Sharon, Connecticut. And so we combine forces. And so families at that hospital get more books through the library and through Read to Grow. But the families get these packets, and then they also can sign up to receive more information and more books from Read to Grow just in the first year of life. We are not the Imagination Library. We don't mail a book a month. But we do mail books and more information at 3 months and a year. The materials are also available in Spanish and English, and we know that we have work to do to expand to the other languages that we're seeing in the prenatal population. Another newer program for us is the NICU program, the Neonatal Intensive Care Program. And so that's in partnership with hospitals across Connecticut that have a neonatal intensive care unit, primarily through Connecticut Children's. And it's a pretty simple model. We provide books and the encouragement to read to families with babies, sick infants who are receiving care in the NICU. There's a stunning statistic about the exposure to the human voice in the NICU. Only 4% of the sounds a baby hears in the NICU is the human voice. The rest of the sounds are the very loud machines that are around them. And so this is, a simple intervention to start to shift the exposure just of sound for babies who are sick and preterm. And as one of the doctors we work with in the NICU likes to say, the medical establishment has figured out pretty well how to help preterm and sick infants survive. We have a long way to go to help them thrive. And I think that sort of perfectly encapsulates the work that we're trying to do. It's about helping families thrive. So that program, the NICU program, is we're working on expanding that. I think that's also an opportunity to partner with libraries. It's sort of version 1.0 right now. We provide board books, and the feedback, of course, that we hear from families is, well, you're trying to change, how much we read. Give us longer books, give us more choice about the books that we have access to read to our babies. And so that's an exciting potential here for us to really explore choice and resources available to families. Many families report saying, reading is the only thing that I feel empowered to do when my baby is, in the isolette. I can't hold my baby. Or my baby's hooked up to all of these wires. And so, holding them and reading to them, that's the primary thing that I feel like I can do to actually help them get better and leave the NICU. So lots of promising work there. The packet that families get in the hospital, as I mentioned before, they can enroll in getting more books and information in that first year of life. And that's our first year program. And what's interesting, if you think about, the continuum of what we provide from the prenatal to that first year of life, if a family conceivably has, receives the Read to Grow messaging when they're getting their prenatal care, then has their baby at a hospital we're partnered with, and then enrolls in the first year program, that's 5 touch points and multiple books that they're receiving along the way, in addition to the messaging. And this is where the impact shows up. So remember that State of Babies report from the beginning, the average statewide percentage of families reading is 48%. 74% of Read to Grow families report reading daily to their baby in the first year of life when they have had that exposure and that messaging. 5 touch points and a number of books distributed. So lots of promising work there and lots of potential for partnering to strengthen this delivery of messaging and resources. It's not rocket science, right? When we give people the information they need and the resources they need, we can start to move that needle so that 100% of children, when they enter kindergarten, are prepared when we look at the literacy rate. I just want to pause because I've been talking a lot and I see there is a question in the chat. In regards to the inclusive literacy slide, what do you recommend when it comes to offering books in different languages when there aren't many published or widely available in that language? Aha. Yes, you have exposure to Spanish, but we're seeing a larger Haitian Creole speaking population. We have trouble just getting books in that language. Thank you so much for that question. We see the same issues. So I'll give another example. We work in New Haven, Connecticut. So English is obviously the primary language. Spanish is the second most spoken language in New Haven. The third most spoken language in New Haven is Pashto. Prior to 2021, 2022, when we pulled out of Afghanistan, there were no baby board books in Pashto in the world. They didn't exist. And thanks to the advocacy of other early literacy organizations, Read to Grow, we reached out to the vendors we work with and said, could you even just translate the existing books into Pashto so that we have baby board books to provide to our healthcare partners who are doing this work. They're meeting those families in the clinics, and we want to make sure that we are providing them with the resources they need. So we're starting to see vendors who are translating existing texts into multiple languages. This is where my knowledge of the vendors that the library system works with versus the vendors that like Read to Grow works with. I don't know where the overlap is, but I'm happy to provide a list of the vendors we work with to Kim. And maybe there's a potential purchasing power here. We talk a lot with other organizations like Reach Out and Read, which is another literacy organization that works in the pediatric space. We work, in partnership with them in Connecticut, sort of a dovetailed model in terms of service provided. And so when we approach together the vendors saying, let's if we promise to buy this many units of these languages because this is what we're seeing, can you make sure that they're printed? So we've seen a shift starting to happen. You're right about the cost. It can be prohibitive, but I think this is where the advocacy really comes in. And just like providing resources to families, maybe there's a way for us to work together around the advocacy to see more books in those languages provided. Can definitely share the names of the vendors. I'll put together a list with links to Kim, and she can send that out to the whole list if that works for folks.
We actually had a comment also, Susanna, in the
Yes.
chat. I'm not awake. That this kind of a question as well. Said, wondering if the information you share with families is available to share with the group here. We have something that we share at our library, but I think it might be slightly outdated. So I know you'd mentioned some articles and helpful information at the very beginning of your presentation. I don't think they were hyperlinked. Would you be able to share those resources with us so that we can pass them along to librarians who can share that information with families and the itty bitties when they come into the libraries?
We would love to do that. Yes. So the first guide the first guide that we provide to the newborns, I think that's the most comprehensive packet of information, or it's a little booklet. And so what I'll do is, again, I'll share with Kim the digital copy of that for you all to see. And I'd also love to hear your feedback on it as well, if there's things we're missing, because it's about time for us to print a new copy of it. Yes, absolutely happy. I'll share the vendor list. I will share that Parents First Guide. We also just created a new collateral for the prenatal program. It's an accordion style piece of information. We created that in partnership with the healthcare providers. We did a lot of focus groups with our healthcare providers, and they said, in addition to the messaging about just reading and exposing, infants to sounds and bonding, it would be really helpful to have just the developmental stages of the baby. So when can baby start to hear you? When is the brain development really happening? So again, in partnership with those providers, we've put together a new piece of collateral. So I will share that as well, so you can see sort of that prenatal messaging that we have. And of course, I'm also really excited to continue to connect with all of you around this work. And I'm sure there's some ideas out there about how we can amplify the messaging and the work together.
Yes, that's one of the best things we like about doing these multi-state sessions here. And someone mentioned in the Q&A the World and Parents Guide. Is that something that we could find also?
Yes, absolutely. Yes,
Great.
definitely share that with you to share with everybody.
Great. Thank you so much. I think that's it for now.
Okay. I'm getting through my session pretty quickly. So if it's okay, I just wanted to just highlight a couple of other things that we do as a program model. And then again, always open to questions. Um, So let's see, why is it not changed? Oh, there we go. Okay. So that continuum that I messaged around before, focus on the Books for Babies program for this presentation. But, as children age, right, everybody has a need for books. And that sweet spot for us is that birth to 5 range. So once baby turns 1, our Books for Kids program essentially functions like a book bank, more or less. We take in books, book donations, and we give out books. And we give out books in several different ways. Families can request books from us. We'll mail them to them free of charge. They don't have to return them. And then organizations, nonprofits, other companies that serve children can request books from us, and we will provide what we can. We don't have a list of titles. We don't have it's not, indexed on our website. We ask for demographic information from those making the requests, and then we provide what we can with the inventory we have at our disposal. And so that's sort of the other half of what we do. And most recently, we actually launched a bookmobile. I know bookmobiles are really the world of the library. And we launched a bookmobile that travels around Connecticut. And we also go to libraries. We get a lot of requests from libraries actually to have our bookmobile come to community events. And maybe if you're on this call, you're a librarian who has requested the bookmobile to come and visit one of your events. We're going to be up in the Hartford area in a week for a Hartford Library event soon through the Leap into Learning program. So, I don't really need to talk on and on about this because I know you all love this. This bookmobiles are well loved and well known, but that is a resource that we have. And then there's also a program that we provide called Popcorn and PJs, which is something we started during COVID. I know, everybody switched online and started doing reading hours online and all of that sort of thing. We did as well, but it has continued since COVID, and we run it October through April. So the months where the sun sets a little earlier. So for families with young children, who are already at home, it's a monthly program. They get the box you see on the right here with the young child who's smiling. It looks like a pizza box. They get a signed copy of the book, usually a hardcover, popcorn, crayons, sketch pad, and then they get the link to join us live. And the author's there, sometimes the illustrator as well, or if it's one and the same, that individual joins us, does the read aloud, talks about the process of writing the book, runs an activity with the children, usually involving the crayons and the sketch pad, and connected to the book, and then answers questions, and then usually reads the book again a second time. Sometimes if it's a dual language book, it's read in English and then again in Spanish, and vice versa, or other languages that we feature. This is a way for us to feature new authors. So we do work with publishers to find sort of a short list of, who has books coming out, so that we are representative of the community. We try to provide a wide range of different authors and illustrators, and on different topics. So like April is Financial Literacy Month. We featured the book Lemonade in Winter, which is actually an older book by Emily Jenkins, a great book about math and counting and number sense. And so these boxes go out to families, and what you see on the screen, if you've run any virtual read alouds, which I'm sure most of you have at some point or participated in them, what we see, we do it Zoom meeting style. So you see everybody and they can turn on their camera, keep it off. And what you see is families engaged in all the things we hope they'd be engaged in. They're sitting together. The older siblings can't help but participate, even though this is aimed at young children. They are turning the pages together. They're drawing together. They might be just enjoying a bowl of popcorn together, but they're talking about what's going on with the book. My own children participate. I am the mom of 2 young children, and my youngest is in kindergarten, and he knows who an author is and an illustrator is, not because I'm his mom and work for a literacy organization, but because of popcorn and PJs. And so this is also another example of some overlap with libraries. So we have partnered with various libraries and found funders to support getting packages out to families that are coming to the library regularly or have come to the library. And then they get this package, and it's another way to just continue that love and building that community around joyful literacy experiences in the home. But of course, the opportunity to connect it to the library. That's my last slide. So I see, I think there's a question again.
Yep. There
Are
was
books free from the bookmobile? Yes,
Mhm.
they are free. They are free, and children can take them, and they do not have to give them back. So yes, free.
Awesome. And then it looks like there are folks talking about if there's a program similar to this in Mass. And I don't know if there is, but if you know, Susanna, or if you keep your ear to the ground, if you hear about other programs similar to Read to Grow that are popping up in other New England states, please let us know so that we can share this information with, with our neighbors.
Awesome. Yes, I absolutely will. And yes, I will definitely put together a list of the resources. I think there's been some talk about like-minded literacy organizations that sort of serve the Northeast around doing kind of like what you're doing today, pulling together a virtual session. And so maybe this is giving me an idea to make sure we're including all of you in that whenever it happens, hopefully in the next year. So that, again, it's about raising awareness for families just as much as it is for all of the professionals who are doing this work. So more power together. Oh, I see all these wonderful resources in the chat. That's great.
Yes, yeah, we've been
Great.
sharing information on other organizations or book vendors where we might be able to get free books. Oh, okay, and we have a couple more questions. Do you have any idea the cost of the program, of the Popcorn and PJs program? Do you pay the authors and illustrators? Is there a limit to the number of boxes you send out? And, I'm going to expand upon that and say, is there any thought, or now that we're having this conversation, any thought of maybe expanding at least the Zoom version to neighboring states, even if you can't
Mhm.
physically mail the popcorn and book? But yeah, what are
Yeah.
sort of the cost breakdowns, if you know?
Sure, absolutely. So lots of good questions in there. So what I'll say is we will ship anywhere in the United States, and we get families that request books. So we have like a lot of grandparents that request books for their grandchildren who are in other states. So that happens. So yes, we're happy to ship anywhere, Massachusetts included. An individual package, everything all in is $30. But if there's like a larger number of families that you're buying for, so for instance, we're in the process of working with the Milford and Danbury Adult Ed program, and they have a grant that is potentially going to fund like 200 families receiving the packages for a number of sessions. There's, again, purchasing power, right? Power in numbers, we can give a significant discount and still cover the costs. So that's the main piece of this. The other question was like, how is this funded, right? So the Popcorn and PJs is a combination of pay to play, but also really working on securing sponsors to cover families. So, if you are looking at a grant to write, we're happy to partner with you on that. We are also, depending on the region, we have regional folks who are interested in sponsoring this work. And so when we can say, X library has, 20 kids that they want to provide this particular resource to, it with really specific language, we can pitch it to folks in those areas, and 9 times out of 10 they sign up to support it. And in general, our work, we are a nonprofit, so our work is funded by individuals. It's grant funded. For the first time ever, we finally got a bit of state funding in the last budget, and that was a huge thing for us because it allows us to expand our Books for Babies program. But as you all know, funding is hard to come by at times, and I know the library is in need of significant funding. And so again, I go back to, how can we work together to amplify this work and share resources?
Yeah. And there are some folks excited about the state funding portion. Apparently, it looks like the Worcester Public Schools host a book for babies. I did say that right. I feel like I say Worcester wrong all the time.
Wasta.
I think that's right.
Yes.
And the Nevins Library in that town just started Growing Readers Initiative, which is grant funded, but we
Wonderful.
offer programming and kits with information. Thank you for sharing information on that. It is for your town residents only, but one of the things that we like about this initiative, Methuen. Methuen? Did I do it? Is that right? I hope so. I try to say words right when I can. But one of the reasons that I wanted to share information about what you're doing, Susanna. Oh, good. I got it right. Great.
Yay.
Is because even if Read to Grow doesn't exist in other our neighboring states, and even if a public library can't do the magnitude of what it is that you're doing, some of these programs and some of these initiatives they might be able to do in small pieces for their community, and I think there's a lot of power in that, but also getting access to additional resources like the ones that you mentioned. I know I'm pretty locked into like library data, but sometimes you miss just like other information that comes out about kids, even if the word library isn't attached to it and it's not published in like, school library journal or something like that. Um, oh, only town in America with that. It's not horrible. It just took me a minute with that name. That never happens. My parents live in Groton, Connecticut, and there's a Groton, Massachusetts. But so, I mean, if there are no other questions, we just have a longer break. Like that's all that means. And I don't think anyone's mad about that. But I'm going to give it a minute. Are there any other questions that come in? And like Susanna said, just to reiterate for anyone who popped in a little bit late, I'm going to get access to those resources from Susanna, the slides, some of the articles and things that were mentioned in the presentation so that we can read through some of this stuff ourselves. I don't know if your contact information was on your slide, Susanna, but if not, I have that. And if folks want to reach out and like you mentioned, sort of partnering together on some grant things. We've one more question. Any chance you will grow in New England to reach other states?
Oh, I love that question. I would love that. I think especially the Books for Babies program. It's such a specific model in the prenatal model. We really don't know anybody else doing that work specifically. So, I love the love in the chat. That's so exciting. Yes. So this is really good. Please grow. Yes, it's in our name, right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh, yes. So are we saving this chat? Can I show
Yes.
this to
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
board?
Yeah. 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 It's going to download all. Exactly. Yes. All the files
Yes.
download. I will share the chat with you. But yeah, just because things can't be, with regards to us, can't be like copied exactly in the moment, that doesn't mean that there's not helpful information that can be pulled out to assist our communities until
Mhm.
apparently all of the librarians in this chat gather together and work with you to like spread Read to Grow to all of New England and maybe beyond. Um,
Yes. The
Great.
start of something incredible. So,
Yeah, yeah, you never
yes.
know. And they can already get that popcorn and books. So I mean, there's already something that that folks can do. So Apparently, they want you all over America. You are a hit. You are waking up our Friday
Yay!
morning. So thank you for being here. I
Oh,
know that
thank you.
you are just I've seen it. I've watched with my own eyes how busy you've been the last couple of weeks. So thank you for taking your time to put together that presentation and come and talk to us. And I will turn you loose for probably a morning and afternoon full of more stuff.
Well, I just want to say again, thank you. This is truly the best way to spend a Friday morning is with librarians. Again, you're all some of my favorite people. I hope to have a chance to meet you all and share more again at some point. So thank you for all the good work you do. Have a wonderful, restful, safe weekend, everybody. And we'll see you all again soon.
Yes, thank you. Bye,
Thank
Susanna.
you. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, everybody.